How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Big Frog's 4x4. Today we're going to be talking first modification of our High Country version 2 king size, but this will probably work on a lot of rooftop tents that use support poles. Let me show you. Now with the High Country King or High Country version 2, the Mini and the King, they lock in with these brackets right here. Obviously 2 screws that hold it in place. But you also have this pole that you have to screw up into here, which even when the tent was raised up, I found it kind of a pain in the butt, especially if it's raining or in bad weather, windy and you're cold, having to screw this thing up in here and out every time. Plus, I don't feel that it adds a lot of support. You can kind of see how the pole flexes on that plastic piece and how loose the threads and stuff. I'm not a big fan of this. Mainly because it's just so much more time consuming to attach. So I'm going to show you what I did, and then I'll walk you through the process it took to modify it, and the parts for this will be down in the description below. I went on Amazon and I bought these aluminum caps, and the link will be in the description down below. Obviously they come with like 2 areas you're supposed to have set screws for you to put over top of a rod or a piece of tubing or something. And then I bought these rubber feet. Obviously made in the USA, but also sold on Amazon. They come in a pack of 4, and they have these steel sleeves in the middle. Now to do this, you want to pop this steel sleeve out, sand it down just a little bit, and we'll go through that here shortly, and then flip it around and put it in the other direction. This will attach to your pole. This will attach to the tent. Here you can see the nice taper of this rubber piece, this rubber foot, and it fits right down in there. And once you have the weight on it, it'll press in nice and tight, and there's no movement. Like, it is nice and secure. Try to pop them back apart. So let's get to the point where I show you how we modify it. So first thing you need to do is get this little metal spacer just out of the bottom of this. You can take a flathead screwdriver or my nice long fingernails I haven't trimmed. So that spacer has to come out, and then we're going to take and sand down just the very end of that. We need to take a little bit off the end. Now you could do that if you want to hold it in pliers and use sandpaper. I'm going to put it in some vice grips and just take it on the grinding wheel on a 4.5-inch grinder and just grind down the end of it some. Now what I did was held it in there and just tightened this with the screw on the end. I did not pull the lever and tighten it because you don't want to bend and smash that. You just need it to hold it in place. That's about it. Now, if it's not enough taken off, you'll know because when you go to tighten this down on the tent, the rubber piece won't squish up and hold in place tightly. So if it doesn't hold tightly, if you have a little bit of a wiggle, then you want to take some more off of the spacer. Now you want to let that cool off for a few seconds. Then you want to take the spacer and drop it down in there like that. Oh, nope, it turned. You want to take it and make sure that it falls down in there with the long piece sticking down, and you can just take an extension or something and push it into the hole. And you see now, instead of being sitting flush, there's a slight recess. Well, if it'll focus. There's a recess here. Instead of this metal piece sticking out flush with the bottom of the spacer, this rubber foot, it sits back in. So when you draw this down, it'll draw this nice and tight. Now, of course, you're going to have to remove your old tent pole. Now, obviously, here's your original mount. You got to take both these screws loose. Slide that off. Then you can remove just one of these screws. Now to do this, you cannot use the lock washer that comes with it because these screws are a little bit too short. So I'm going to remove the lock washer. And in case I ever need it again, I'm going to add it to this screw on this side. Now I'll put these pieces from this in a Ziploc bag and probably keep them in a pocket inside the tent, just in case you end up needing them. So all you need is that piece, and your rubber foot. But you want to drop the screw down through the hole. It's easier to start the screw into this without it being in the track, because you can see the hole better. Slide that in there. Set it about the same as the other side. Tighten that screw down. Now I'll probably come back and put some Loctite on that just so this doesn't vibrate loose on the road. But I'm putting this in for now like this because I plan on taking this back out, buying 2 more poles, and doing the same thing up here by the ladder. And that way I have 4 support poles. I don't need the ladder to support the tent anymore. See, and if you ground enough off of that, that'll fit in there nice and tight. Do not overstrip it, just snug it up. Do not strip that aluminum. I mean, if you did, you still have 1 more of these, another screw, but if you want to do 4 poles, obviously, you're going to want just keep those in good shape. That's all you got to do to that. Like I said, I'll put some anti-rust spray down in there just in case. I don't want anything on the outside because I want that cup to fit nice and tight. Now I'm heading over to the drill press. I'm using the rubber bushing to mark the center of the aluminum plug. Now, it's not going to be exactly perfectly on unless you're really getting this plug perfectly. And the drill bit's a little bit smaller than the metal spacer that's in here. So I'm using a 13/64 drill bit. If you go to a 7/32, it's a little too big and it catches the aluminum. I mean, this not aluminum, the steel spacer that's in here. And you don't want to like have that spin in there and mess up the rubber. So I'm going 1 size down, like I said, to a 13/64. I'll drill just to where I get a pilot hole started, and then I can take the rubber out and then use a bigger drill bit. And we're going to be using, let me see, I forget what size it is now. A 19/64. We're going to be using a 19/64 and to drill the rest of the way through. Now we got a pilot hole, just a little dimple in the center of that started. And it's not perfectly centered, and it doesn't have to be for what we're doing. I mean, if you wanted to take it and have it perfectly centered, you can, but it doesn't really matter for this. You could use a hand drill as well. I can just get it a little bit more square with a drill press, but you don't have to use a drill press. You could use a hand drill as well. Okay, there we go. Again, it's not perfectly centered, but it really doesn't have to be. We got her close. All right, so when you're putting this aluminum over top of this with that drill bit, it is a slightly tighter fit, so you do have to screw the aluminum all the way down to the base, and then we'll secure that with a nut. Oh, these caps do come with a set screw spot on the sides. Just take your set screws out. Now, this is a coarse metric thread, although I could not find anything in my tap sets to tell me exactly what size it is, but I do know it is a coarse metric thread, and luckily I had 2 bolts, or I had 2 nuts that are the proper thread size, and they're actually a lock nut. Focusing on the wrong thing here. So we're just going to tighten that down. What you can do is take your pole into your hardware store and match up that thread. And I'm going to secure that all the way down until that cap is tight on here. And that's it. So you come up underneath here, you work that up in nice and tight, and then you can set your pole in place. That's all there is to it. Rather than trying to screw those things up into place, you can just put your caps on. So, thanks for watching Big Frog's 4x4. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell if you want notified of each video as it comes out. There will be more modifications to the tent. Thanks for watching, and God bless.